Thanks for tuning in to the Pro Sports Photographer Reality Check video presentation. Now, I created this video because a lot of people are telling me they don't like reading ebooks, which you need to be reading because that's very, very important. But I want to make sure this information is accessible to everyone. So I created this video kind of like a presentation style. I'm not going to be reading word for word, but you can follow along with the ebook because there are some specific links inside the ebook that I can't kind of show you with this presentation. So this is going to be the video presentation of the Pro Sports Reality Check report. The reason why I created this is because there are a lot of photography influencers out there who don't really know what they're talking about. These guys and girls, they've never really worked pro sports for a career. Maybe they shot a professional game or two, and they're out there giving all this information and selling courses that's wrong. And so I won't waste your time. I'm going to tell you who this presentation is not for. First of all, the social media myth of all the photographers out there, they're going to tell you that passion is all you need to get started. Now, in photography, yeah, you know, regular photography is fine. You got to think about sports is one of the highest tiers of photography that requires a lot of things. They're also going to tell you that your beginner kit lens is totally fine, which is not. You cannot create pro level images with beginner equipment. For learning photography, that's great. Your little Canon EOS Rebel, your parents bought you a Costco, that's fine for learning the basics of photography, camera functions, and developing your photographic eye. But for professional sports, that's not going to work. They're also going to tell you that you can spend hours editing in Lightroom. That's a key word. When you see a professional sports photographer who is shooting professional sports on deadline saying that they only use Lightroom, in my opinion, that's a red flag because every professional that I know that shoots sports on deadline, they're using another program, and I'm going to get into that later. They're also going to tell you that you want to DM the team's photographers or the athletic director and just keep on hammering them with stuff. That's bad advice, and I'm not here. So here is the actual reality check. It's a brutal business with a 3-year dropout rate, meaning it is very, very difficult, and most people drop out. So that's what they don't tell you, because if they're selling you a course, they want to sell this dream that you're going to be a photographer with your little crappy lens. No. That's not going to work. So you can't build a professional portfolio with beginner gear. You're also going to have, depending on what sport you are, hockey or football, you're going to have 12 to 18 minutes to edit your photos and send to your publication. They don't tell you that. And credentials require publication backing and liability. What that means is that you're not going to get press credentials if you don't have to be there. You're not going to get press credentials if you're just shooting for yourself and you just want to build a portfolio. You need a professional outlet to back you. And lastly, if you're looking for validation, you are in the wrong place because this is a reality check, not a cutesy little thing. Keep all that in mind. And you know what? If this is not for you, I totally understand it. You don't have to watch it. I'm going to try to breeze through this. But if this already is not for you, you don't like me, you don't like my style, I appreciate it. So anyways, let's us move on. And this information, okay, is from my personal experience. My name is Luis Santana. I am a news and sports photographer. Been doing it for over 20 years. And this is also information that I got from my friends, my colleagues, who are heavy hitter photographers. I have friends that have been doing photography, sports photography, longer than you've been born, 30 years. And these guys and girls are absolute heavy hitters, legends. I'm personal fans of them. So this is information that you won't get anywhere else because those guys and girls, those heavy hitter photographers have been doing it for years and been covering dozens of Super Bowls and Stanley Cups and NBA championships. They're not making content. So unlike a lot of photographers that are just creating sports content, I actually do this for a living. My colleagues do this for a living. We are credentialed for entire seasons, and we cover MLB, we cover NFL, we cover NHL, we cover college, we cover high school sports sometimes. So we're actually doing this. I'm actually doing this. I'm not a photography influencer. Another thing about being a professional sports photographer, it's not for Instagram clout chasers. It's not for people to check off things in their bucket list. It's not for people to think that just my passion for sports photography is enough. So this is for photographers who want the entire picture of what it's like, the reality check of what it's like, and ready to accept the real gear cost and timelines. So again, if you're on board with all that, we're going to move forward because we're going to talk about the next aspect, which is gear. So back to what I was saying about your crappy Costco camera that your mom bought you for Christmas. That's fine for beginner photography. But your kit lens and your amateur or beginner lenses is a disqualifier and not a handicap. It's something that you can learn at the recreational sports, at the maybe high school level, where you have a beginner camera and you have a beginner lens. So here's the reality. So if you're using an amateur lens, let's just say it's a 5.6 aperture, you're not letting in enough light. So you're going to have to shoot at a higher ISO. And in a lot of these beginner bodies, higher ISO actually really degrades the image quality and you have lots of noise. So that's going to kill your quality. Now, pro lenses are going to be using, on average, a 2.8 aperture, which allows more light into the sensor. You can get to the 1/1000th shutter speed, which is pretty much the bare minimum for most sports. You're going to be able to freeze the action and have a much cleaner file. Again, you're not going to be able to build a professional portfolio with beginner equipment. But let me tell you, so let me come out here. So you can use your, let's just say your Canon Rebel and your Canon or Sigma or Tamron 75 or 300 lens f6. You can do that because you're going to have to practice framing, following the action, anticipating the action, freezing the action, none of the spray and pray stuff. You're going to practice actually going over and getting these images. The quality of the images might not be the best. They actually, they won't be the best, but the principle of getting that photo, the beginner photo, if you can get those photos with that beginner setup, when you upgrade to the professional level equipment, it's going to be way easier. So if you can afford to jump and buy this really expensive stuff, which I'm about to go into, definitely do it. But a lot of people are starting with beginner level gear. And to be honest, that is something that is okay to use when you're first getting started. Once you get into the college level or higher tier, you're definitely going to have to get rid of that equipment and you're going to have to go into professional equipment. Now, let's go over. A lot of people, there's different types of cameras. There's your classic DSLR. The DSLRs are going to have that shutter that whenever you take a photo, it slaps, it goes up and down. That's digital single lens reflex cameras. That's pretty much what everyone used forever. And if you can get one of those, that's great. But again, we're trying to get into pro sports. You need a mirrorless camera. Mirrorless cameras are literally the cheat code. And again, I'm a newspaper photographer, and for years we used the Canon 1DX Mark III. I love that camera. That camera was a beast. That camera was heavy, fast, excellent image quality, excellent autofocus, but it was missing the mirrorless technology of electronic viewfinder. That right there was a freaking game changer. To be able to look at your exposure and what you see, what you get through the electronic viewfinder, the EVF, that right there was huge, 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 huge. So you want to move into mirrorless because that's what all the professionals are using. We recently got some mirrorless cameras for our entire staff, and it's literally night and day difference. It's lighter, it's faster, autofocus is better, technology is better, and the electronic viewfinder cheat code. There's a lot of other things in pro level cameras that you can't get in beginner cameras, and one of them is reliability. So you want a camera that is going to be reliable. It's going to follow the action. It's going to take really fast shots per second, because you can't ask a wide receiver to run the route again. You can't ask the goalie to make that save again. You can't ask that basketball player to make a dunk again. If you miss it, that's your ass. Like, you need professional quality equipment to achieve professional quality results. So let's go over some of the mirrorless stuff here and the glass that you're going to need. So I already mentioned the EVF, electronic viewfinder. That's going to give you the live preview of your exposure. It's actually, especially if you're shooting sports outside, you can hold your camera to your eye, and you could see the actual image without the glare looking in the back of the LCD screen. I'm sure everyone's done that. I've done that for years. The EVF helps you lock down your exposure even better. Also, pro level cameras, they also have FTP capabilities that you can actually send images directly to your phone or to an FTP server, or you can plug an Ethernet cable. A lot of professional sports, especially championships, will have Ethernet drops where you can plug in your camera to the internet and you can remotely send it to your remote editor or to your laptop. That is huge. You can't get that with beginner gear. And if you do get a professional level gig, they're going to ask you about Ethernet and FTP capabilities, network settings, and you're not going to be able to do that. So start looking into that gear. All right, so let's talk about the glass. When it comes to sports photography, there are two main long lenses that most photographers out there use. Depending on the sport you're doing, it's gonna be different. So first of all is the 70-200 or equivalent f2.8. That's very important. You want to have that 2.8 aperture because that's going to allow more light to get cleaner files and beautiful shots. It's a workhorse. That's what I use for hockey, NHL hockey, and it is literally my favorite lens. It's all around. If you were to buy one lens, drop the money for a 70-200. Okay, so I'm a Canon shooter, and I'm going to talk about specifically Canon lenses because that's what I know the most. But this is similar to Sony or Nikon. They have a similar situation, but because I'm a Canon shooter and I've always been a Canon shooter, that I'm going to go with what I know. Quick side note, a lot of people say which is better, Sony or Canon or blah, blah, blah. All of them are great. All of them are great. Pick one and stick with it. Personally, I see more Canon cameras on sidelines for photography and more Sony cameras on sidelines for video. Take that what you want, but definitely know that any pro level camera, Canon, Nikon, and Sony, they're great. So don't get too hung up on that. Decide on what you want. If you have friends that shoot Canon or Sony, maybe that can help you because you can borrow gear from them. But don't get too hung up on that. So let's go back to Canon gear. Like I said before, I was using a Canon 1DX Mark III, which is an EF mount, which is a mirrored DSLR camera. Those lenses were made for that system. Now, as Canon upgraded their technology and created mirrorless cameras, and they created the RF mount, a different mirrorless mount, and they have a whole different product line of of lenses for these cameras, I was able to use my Canon R3 with an adapter on older lenses. Now, for me, that's a cheat code because you can use your existing lens setup with your brand new mirrorless body and not have to buy new stuff. Since then, we now have RF mounted lenses, so we no longer need an adapter. But if you want to save money, you could purchase a used R5 or R3. Then you can purchase an older EF mount 70-200 lens for, let's say, $1,800, which they're like $3,000 new. You could probably find them cheaper now. eBay, MBP, there's a lot of different Roberts Camera, Adorama. They have a lot of used stuff, Marketplace. So you can buy one of those and you can have the ability of having a 2.8 lens without spending the $3,500 for a brand new RF mount. So that's a cheat code. You can use an adapter to use an older series lens on it. And you know what? I did that for almost 2 years and it was great. So don't get too hung up on that. Let's talk about the other things that you probably didn't even think about. So your memory cards. Memory cards are going to be about $150 to $200 each. You want to have professional level cards. So CF Express cards are the quickest. And here's the thing with that. So you want to make sure that your cards are super fast. And whenever you go to import it, it imports it instantly. It wants to import these gigs of files into your laptop really fast. You're using USB-C, Lightning, and you're importing these photos fast because you only have 12 to 18 minutes to edit in between periods or in between halftime. So speed is a must. You also want reliability. So these more expensive cards are going to give you a confidence that you're going to get the shot. Quick side note on professional level bodies. Most professional level bodies have double memory cards. So you can put 2 memory cards in to act as a backup just in case one fails. Because again, you cannot ask quarterback to run another play, throw another touchdown. You can't. So you got to get it right. So that is the gear part. And again, this is not really a gear tutorial. It's kind of a reality check that it's very, 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 very expensive. And the initial investment is really, really expensive for what you're going to get paid. And that's actually the next part I'm going to talk about is pay. So let's look at the access ladder. So that is going to be where you start. So you're going to start at youth sports, rec league stuff, rec league hockey, rec league football, rec league baseball, and high school games. You could make about $150 to $200 a game, but it's not what you think. Basically, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be selling hero photos. And this sounds boring. This sounds like what you don't want to do. But I'm telling you, if you want to generate money and you want to practice in a low pressure environment, do youth sports. A lot of people, I'm telling you, a lot of people want to skip this step. And you see it in their work. So let's talk about that. So this is how you're going to make money in this bottom tier. You're going to shoot local games, right? So you're just going to show up to your field or your hockey and you're just going to start photographing kids. You approach the parents and say, hey, I'm going to be shooting children to help build my portfolio. I can charge you $50 and I could give you a bunch of photos of your kid playing a sport. Just give me their name and you deliver them. So you could do this for several players and you could make $250 a game. Now, this is going to help you in a variety of ways. You're going to be able to have a little bit of pressure of making good photos for a parent because they're paying you $50 or $25 or whatever you're going to charge them. And then you have a little bit of pressure to make sure you're getting that photo to them, a good quality photo and on time. You're building your stress level because when you're in a professional level game, it is high stress. A lot of people say, oh, it's so fun doing what you're doing. For professional sports photographers, we're kind of under pressure because we don't want to miss the play. We don't want to miss an important milestone. We don't want to miss an injury. We're kind of locked in. Yes, we do, chat and have fun a little bit, but for the most part, we're locked in. And if you've never had that level of focus in your photography, most people don't. Most people they shoot photos for fun, no pressure. But this little bit of pressure of performing for a parent is the beginning of what you're going to get in different tiers. So this is great because what this is going to do is it's going to build your reputation. It's going to build your experience shooting action in low light environments and hot or rainy or cold environments. These are all environments you're going to have to shoot as a professional sports photographer. And you're going to have a parent who's going to either like your photos and recommend you or say you suck. Same thing is going to happen to a sports editor. So let's go back to the different tier. The next tier is D2, D3, NAIA colleges. So the access here is medium, and this is about portfolio building. Now, I would say at this level, you want to start really getting into more professional gear. In the youth and high school, you probably could get away with your beginner gear. But moving up, you definitely want to get some more quality gear. The next level over that is D1 colleges. So D1 colleges, that is pretty difficult to get access to because most of them are going to have in-house social media teams, in-house videographers, photographers, and that's going to be very difficult to get. And you're also going to need accreditation to get in there to photograph these games, which means you're going to need a publication or a wire service to request a credential on your behalf to photograph this game. Expect to get about $150 to $300 a game, depending on the organization, the publication, the wire, that or the game you're covering. Now, I hope you're noticing right now that we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars in gear to make $150 to $300 a game. I hope you understand that, because that is a reality. And this is what the reality check is all about. Giving you a reality check that you're going to invest $25,000, give or take, in equipment, not including laptop, not including a reliable vehicle, not including personal gear, just in camera gear, to make $150 to $300 a game. Yes. Keep that in mind, please. So the next tier, the top tier, is your pro and editorial tier. This is your pro level sports, your NFL, MLB, MLS, NHL, NBA. These are professional top tier, and the access is under 5% of the market, meaning it's a very small amount of photographers that get into this. And in order to get into this, you're going to have a reliable publication that you are working for, a wire service that you are working for. And in order to get to that level, you had to build a relationship through the other tiers that you are a reliable photographer, you know what you're doing, and that you can get the shot. So this is the most difficult tier. If you're working for a team, understand that working for, let's just say, an NFL professional football team is pretty much equivalent that if you were an athlete being on an NFL team in photography terms. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but here's the thing. The NFL, to be a team photographer to the NFL, is literally every professional sports photographer's dream. Not every, but professional sports photographer's dream. There's many people trying to do it, but there's only one or two positions. Just like a professional NFL quarterback. There's actually probably more chances to go pro as a quarterback in the NFL than to be a team photographer. Okay, it's very difficult. So if that's your goal, you could definitely do it, but understand the reality. Working for a wire service, that's also a goal for many sports photographers, because you're getting to shoot all different types of sports. So, or a newspaper photographer like myself. Unfortunately, newspaper and wire photographers, that's shrinking. Okay, they're not creating more. Like, newspapers are shrinking, wire services are shrinking, Associated Press, Getty Images, they're restructuring, laying off people. Newspapers are laying off people and closing down. So those opportunities are very, very, very small. The new opportunities are more of team photographers, which requires a high level of skill because you're representing the team. All right, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is probably the most important. The great photo delivered late is worth zero. So it's not just about getting a great photo, it's your workflow. Getting the photo to your editor, to your social media team, that is important. And a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people, I won't call anybody out, but there's photographers on social media who will go out and they'll shoot a sports game. I'll see them on the sidelines, and then they post photos 2 or 3 days later. Or their publication will post it a week later. That's not reality in pro sports. Yes, there are some people who do that, but if you want to work for a wire service or you want to get to a professional level, your workflow must be super fast. So let's go over kind of like the workflow on that. So pregame, you're going to have to set up your code replacements. You're going to learn about that in future presentations I do. You're going to review the rosters. You're going to look at your shooting positions. You're going to connect with a team photographer. You're going to connect with communication staff and figure out what's going on. In the game, as you're shooting, you're manually tagging your photos. So when you bring it back into your photo editing software, like Photo Mechanic, you can only view your tagged photos, which is going to speed up your workflow. So instead of going through thousands of photos, you're going to go through just your tagged photos. And if you don't know any of this means, I plan to do more trainings on this. So make sure that you check your emails because I'm going to be sending announcements and all this stuff. So this is not like a shooting tutorial, just kind of like a reality check. But you're going to be doing little things in your camera to make your workflow faster, because in halftime, you have 12 to 20 minutes to get all of your photos imported, edited, captioned, and sent to your publication. Because the reality is, if you do not do that, you're not going to get invited back, because sports editors, they need those photos. So let's just say if you get a key moment, a milestone of a football player. Well, if you get the milestone, like the 100th touchdown this player does, and you don't post that till the end of the game, everyone else beats your publication. Okay, so let's specifically talk football. And let's take a hypothetical situation like Tom Brady's 300th touchdown. And let's say that happens in the first quarter. If, depending on the publication you're using, maybe you're remotely filing from your camera as soon as he makes that iconic milestone moment, you're sending through the back of your camera with an FTP server to your remote editor, and you have that photo right away. That publication then puts it all over the internet, on social media, and they win. That's what publications are hiring you to be there. They want you to be there first, they want you to be there accurate, and they want you to produce quality sports images. So if you're not shooting tethered, is what they call it, and you're not sending remotely as you're shooting, the next option is for you to edit at halftime. So you have about 12 to 20 minutes, depending on the league or the game, to send those photos. And the whole process does take time and practice. So that's why you can't be thrown into a professional level situation if you've never had a practice doing this on the minor level sports. So let's say that Tom Brady made that play in the first quarter. It's now halftime and you take forever. Now, everyone else is beating that publication. So let's just say that that publication is like a football publication. Your images being late does nothing for them. And everyone beats that publication, and your editor's pissed off because you did not get those images fast. That's the reality. You want to make sure those images, those key milestone images, are as quickly as possible. And that's a reality check a lot of people are not even saying. They're not even telling you that speed is the key, because again, a great photo delivered late is worth zero. So that's kind of like a really important thing to know, that when shooting as a professional sports photographer, speed is key, accuracy is key. So I call this the sideline equation. If you want to shoot pro sports, these are the things that you're going to need to get you on the sideline. And I say sideline, so I'm just taking football as an example, but this means baseball, NBA, NHL, soccer. This kind of all equates to the same thing. So first thing is your pro gear. You want to make sure that you have your professional level gear. That's the entry fee. That's the bare minimum you need to get in. And that pro level gear is purchased after years of experience in the minor leagues. Second thing is your really fast workflow. You have to have a computer, you have to have processing power that can give you the speediest workflow. This is what's going to be your survival skill, because without a fast workflow, you're not going to get hired again. Again, this is not a whole gear tutorial, but you want to make sure you have a laptop that can handle it. You want to make sure that you have a laptop that has enough space. You have backed up hard drives. There's a lot of things that go into that. I'm not going to really go too deep into that, but you got to understand that speed is key. So you have your professional level gear, you have your speed, and then what I call is a sideline etiquette. You have to be a good person. One of the ways that you're going to get more jobs and more gigs is through other photographers. Just so you know, there are, again, photographers who've been doing it for a very, very, very long time, and they're all competing for the same positions. But a lot of times, photographers can't be anywhere. So oftentimes, a professional sports photographer will say, hey, I have a job in this city, and I can't make this game. Would you be interested in shooting it? Now, that connection would never, ever, ever, ever be made if you don't build a relationship on the sidelines. So some of the things of not crossing certain boundaries on the field, not getting in the way of team photographers, being a smelly person, being an annoying person, being a fanboy. All of those things are disqualifiers for sideline etiquette. You want to be a professional, friendly photographer. If you don't know things, ask questions. Don't act like a Mr. Know-it-all. I'm going to give a whole training on that also. So again, stay tuned to your emails because I'm going to teach you all of that because I have a lot to say about that. But let's talk about what I'm going to say is the 5-year access ladder. It's going to take you about 5 years to shoot professional sports if done correctly, because in my opinion, and again, this whole training is my opinion, if you skip steps, you will be called out eventually. So let's do another hypothetical example. I am all about hypothetical examples. Let's say that you shoot your son's Little League baseball. And all the parents say, oh, you're so great. And your friends say, oh, you're so great. You post a couple of things on sports photography, Facebook groups, and everyone, oh, you're so great. But you skip the other steps. You have a crappy Dell laptop. You're using, maybe you're using pro level gear. Let's just say that you got money and you're using an R5 and a 7200, let's just say. But you've never had to shoot for anyone with pressure. You don't have professional level workflow. You never had to do that. And let's just say your friend through baseball got you a press credential to shoot a baseball game because you know somebody and they did it. Now you're in the dugout. You're in the photo well of a professional MLB game. You have no sideline etiquette. You have no field etiquette. You really don't know what you're doing because shooting youth baseball and shooting professional is two completely different worlds. So let's say you do shoot that. You skip all the other steps in between and you're going to mess up. You're going to produce crappy images. You're going to piss off team photographers. You might get in trouble with the league and your reputation is ruined. I see a lot of people doing this. I see a lot of people skipping steps and super important. And unfortunately, the way things are in social media right now is everyone doesn't want to wait. They want it now. And skipping these steps could be something that's going to ruin your entire career because I tell you, here in Tampa, Florida, where I live, all of the sports photographers, we all know each other and we know other people. I don't travel personally as much, but other team photographers and wire photographers, some of my favorite photographers that I know and follow, they're all over the country, all over the world. They know each other and reputation builds. This dude's stinky. This dude sucks. This dude is a fanboy. Those people don't last, and you don't want to have that reputation. You want to build a professional reputation of being professional and friendly. So that is very, very important. And we're about to wrap up. So hopefully you found a value in this because I really want to provide value. Again, I really want to give you guys the most accurate information of what's happening. And let's keep on going. All right. And one of the things I'm going to touch on briefly is about credentials. Now, if you watch this entire presentation, you realize there's levels to this thing and there's steps you have to do. So if you're trying to request press credentials before you're ready, that's going to hurt your reputation. That's something you definitely don't want to do. I want to make sure that I leave you with kind of like a roadmap of what you need to do. First thing is you want to do a gear audit. Once you are beyond the rec league, high school league, and you want to start going pro and you realize this is something you want to do, start selling off your beginner gear. Start saving extra money to start getting that professional level gear, that mirrorless body, the 70-200 2.8. And the next thing you want to do is you want to set up a portfolio and build your social presence as a professional sports photographer. That is huge. I strongly believe in social media, and I definitely feel that a Instagram photography page is bare minimum. Bare minimum. You want to have a professional portfolio. That's the next step. But bare minimum is an Instagram page with your sports photography. So that's something you definitely want to do. You want to build that, and you want to only post your best images. A sports portfolio comes next. And one of the things about a sports portfolio is you want to have a professional photographer review those images and help you critique your photos often. Again, I have another thing coming out about portfolios and all kinds of stuff about that. I have a really cool portfolio portal that I'm building. So stay tuned to your emails for that because I definitely want you to see that. The portfolio review, in my opinion, is important before you start requesting credentials. Because again, in my other example I gave you, a lot of people are going to tell you how great you are, but you actually probably suck. And the people who are telling you you're awesome, your family and the parents of the people you're photographing, they're going to tell you that's awesome photos, but they're not hiring you to be on a professional level. So having a professional working sports photographer, not a photographer influencer, review your images and give you valuable feedback is going to be something that, in my opinion, you need before you apply for any credential. Another thing you should work on is the speed test because, again, a quality photo delivered late means nothing. So shoot a live event, like shoot a specific game, shoot a Little League football game or whatever, and test yourself to file photos to your personal website accurately, captioned and edited, and see how you do. Test that first, because you don't want to do that the first time in a high stakes game. You want to practice that before you get into any level. So those are my reality checks. I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this video. Again, I created this because there's too much bad information out there, and I want to give you guys good information. I'm going to be building a lot of stuff. So I want to provide more value for young sports photographers. Some are going to be paid courses. Some are going to be free courses. Here's some of the things I'm working on. So photo mechanic, that is the industry standard in sports photography. Code replacements, I'm going to teach all that. And these are the things that I'm working on. A guide on getting approved for press credentials. I'm going to do some sports specific checklists and settings. It's kind of basic level, but I'm trying to hit all different tiers. And then I'm going to be doing a pro portfolio review app. This is going to be a free app where you can send in photos and have a professional photographer give you a critique. This is going to be really cool. I'm working on that. So make sure you're checking your emails. Make sure that you are getting plugged in. Follow me on social media. I'm going to try to always provide value. And Pro Sports Photographer Reality Check Report has some links in there. Definitely check that out. You're going to get that. Thank you again. I really appreciate you. This is not what I do. I'm not a streamer. I'm not a photography influencer. I am a dad that has an amazing job working as a news and sports photographer for over 20 years here in Tampa, Florida. And I just want to provide you some great content and advice. Again, thank you for joining me.